Okay, and a very good afternoon to you all. Hope you've all had a great day so far. Some of you going into the day, hope you had a great weekend. Those of you that celebrated Easter or any other celebrations over this last weekend, hope you all had a lot of fun. I also hope you had a bit of time to watch some of the cameras. Folks, so thanks for joining me today. It's Phil Stephanie here. Russell is man down for a couple of days, so I'll be here with you for the next half an hour. Always a great time of day. Doesn't matter what day it is. And I look forward to seeing what's out on the cameras. I've got some great highlight videos from the weekend that we'll spend a lot of time with. I thought we would start here at Tembe. These two wonderful elephant bulls. This is now live. Having a very relaxed afternoon. Folks, if anyone who is registered and anyone who's not, I definitely urge you to register on the website. There you'll be able to ask questions. It's always really nice to get your questions. If you've seen anything over the last couple of days that you want to find out more about or find out more about what we're looking at on this show, please do, as usual, send through as many questions as you can. Always nice to interact with all of you folks all around the world. How you doing, Suki? Hope you had a great weekend. I see you had an answer on the last show on Thursday with regards to your favorite lodge, Jock Safari Lodge in Kruger. Definitely right up there with one of my favorite little safari lodges, nice and quiet. Wonderful area for walking. So thanks for that. And anyone else listening, we had a question or a bit of a discussion last week with regards to favorite areas that either you've been to or maybe somewhere is on your bucket list to go to. Where would it be? What's your favorite lodge? It's always nice to hear. There's so many different options out there. Quite interesting how, as we start changing from one season to the next, it's no longer as green as it always was, or at least over the last 3, 4 months. It was so green here at Tembe. The grass, though, is starting to go a little browner. It's still very green. Those water holes that we're looking at right now, those patches of water, are still nice and full. Although over the weekend, those of you that have been watching the cameras, there's some water holes that have turned into beautiful wallows, really deep mud wallows. I think we're actually panning across into the area where the elephants over there, they've been spending a lot of time there. Very entertaining indeed, covering themselves and I guess anyone around them in mud. Because although we're moving into winter, the days are still nice and warm here at Tembe. In fact, the winters in Tembe, I would say, is probably the really good summer's day in the northern part of the planet. But the nights do cool off. I don't know, some of you may have seen the cameras in the morning. There's lots of mist. And that's typical. The cold air is sunk down, met the warmer ground. Condensation takes place and creates a beautiful thick layer of mist. And it's quite particular here at Tembe. But I'm sure as the winter months settle in, we'll see more and more of that. It does make for very beautiful, beautiful scenery. Lovely Tusker. We did our show on Tuskers of Tembe. This is a young bull here, probably about, maybe late 20s, so relatively small body, but long tusks. And those of you that watched the On Point show a couple of weeks back, it's quite interesting that elephants actually, from about 34 years of age, have a huge spurt in tusk growth. So this fellow's still got, maybe 8 or 9 years to go before he really starts putting on ivory. But it's another great example of the next generation of big tuskers of Tembe. we haven't seen male lions for a while. And what I was saying, as no one was hearing, is that slowly but surely there's been a lot more lion activity, both here at Nkora as well as the Tembi. But this is a beautiful big male lion. Just look at his mane, beautiful black mane on the top and on the base. Really important for visual dominance. But just look how he's looking around. He's really having a good look around. I think he may have heard other lions roaring there. Just look at his body language. He's taking in as much of his environment as he can. Looks like he's got his nostrils nice and wide there. He's just responded to sound, or possibly he's seen something. It's quite tricky to tell, but one thing's for sure. He's really focused and giving us this most incredible view. It looks to me like he's in his prime. I would say somewhere around 6 years of age. He'll probably still have no problems with regards to competition until about 8, maybe 9. I suspect he's part of a coalition. If he's on his own and staying on his own, he might get pushed out as the competition becomes quite stiff. I tell you what, as far as individual specimens go, this fellow is just beautiful. Having a good stretch. He must have been lying down. There goes his roar. Listen to him. Incredible. Marcel, I think we had a brief discussion last show about the sound and the way that the lion's roar penetrates in terms of sound is absolutely incredible. And I thought this was a great opportunity just to listen to that. So that's audio communication, looking for prides in the area, but he's also letting other male lions know that he's in the area, and the fact that he's roaring in such a big way is really quite dominant. Fantastic. Fantastic sighting. Let's see where there's another. Let's go to Naledi this time. There's a young lioness, also in this case on its own. Unfortunately, I think the sound in this clip is not working, but you can see the movement of the head. And those of you that have been watching the cameras over this last weekend, this one's been here for a couple of days, and it's a young one. There you can see that's the movement. Now that we've heard the male lion, it's definitely not as loud, but this little one will be communicating to try and find its pride. And sometimes in a hunt, maybe there might have been a bit of confusion and chaos where this youngster got split up and then has come back into the core part of its territory, which happens to be around Naledi Dam. And there's been 2 days that I've seen this youngster. I'm pretty sure it won't be long, or I think it's already found its pride, but that does happen every now and then. You see, it doesn't move too far. It doesn't want to get lost unless it starts to hear the mothers from the pride calling back there. You can see the body language. We'll have to use our imagination for the sound on this one. But like I say, there's been a fair amount of lion activity. Let's see, there's another clip that from the same lioness, maybe. Oh no, this is a different one. This is a great one. So this was from last week, also at Naledi Dam. Maybe this is what caused this one. You see these lionesses, it's the same pride, but they're being hassled by hyenas. Lots of hyenas. We discussed the topic with regards to the competition between lions and hyenas. And here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 hyenas against these 2 young lionesses. And it was after this that youngster started to appear by itself. So I think the beginning of last week, these lions had a kill here, and there was a fair amount of activity between lions and hyenas. That often indicates that there was a big kill. Maybe they killed a buffalo, maybe even a giraffe, because there's been a lot of hyena activity that have brought them in over a couple of days. But maybe that's what's separated the pride. Just look how they're looking back there, really quite concerned. So 2 lionesses like this against a big group of hyenas is quite a worrying situation for these young lions. And I tell you what, if that big male lion had to come in here, those hyenas would have quite a big decision to make, and I suspect they'd run around or run away, because they don't really mess with big males so much. But these youngsters are busy learning quite a big lesson in competition. The hyenas, they're still there, they're gathering. Maybe the hyenas not sure how many lions there are, because when this pride was together at this time, I think I saw 11 in one of the photographs. So if those hyenas had to attack, there would be a hell of a commotion, lots of noise, and that will attract the rest of the pride, and then the hyenas won't be so dominant. But these youngsters are doing well, these 2 lions. They seem to be holding them off at least. You just look at those eyes in the background there. Stephanie just responding to your comment here, a lesson in animal sounds. Well, that's exactly why it's so nice to have you on the show and keep watching. And if you hear something while you're watching and you're not too sure, it's always nice to, send a question through. But yeah, that's a very good example of a big male lion's roar. Andrea, you asked if it's possible to identify different individual male lions through their roar. It's quite interesting. I would say the times that I've spent 2 or 3 years in one area, I think I've worked out the different sounds. So I would say it is possible, but you'd have to spend a lot of time in an area, maybe someone doing research. You can definitely tell the difference between male and female. That's pretty clear. But from individual line to individual line, if you haven't spent too much time in an area, it would be really tricky. But it is quite an interesting question, because it would be an interesting one where the researchers out there have been able to do that. It's quite fascinating how these hyenas haven't really committed to chasing these youngsters off. There's no real need. I suspect the rest of the pride is not too far off. So My guess is that they just keeping at distance. You see these lines of scent marking all over the place. They're putting down a bit of a message to these hyenas. They're trying to come a bit closer. I suspect they've already all had some food, but it is an ancient enemy or enemies here in this amazing footage. Yeah, the hyena's coming a bit closer. That loping body shape. Very eerie animal. Not everyone's favorite. I find them very entertaining. Okay, so while these two lions, nothing actually happened. There wasn't a battle. No one got chased off. They just had this standoff, but really interesting to see. So here's another really interesting clip of something we see relatively commonly, but there's a really good view of a hippo grazing in front of cat eye. Doesn't get much better than that. Just have a listen to those big lips grabbing the grass. You often see hippos in the river or longer distance views. Sometimes at Rosie's Pan we get to see them quite nicely, but this is quite an interesting angle here from cat eye. Look at those little feet holding up such a big body. The river itself, the Olifants River that is not too far away from cat eye, so I suspect this hippo has come from there, come inland a bit, but never too far away from water if they can help it. And like I was saying, things are getting quite a lot drier than they were 2 or 3 months ago, but certainly not a bad place to be. I think this winter is going to have lots of food for all these big bulk grazers. Got a couple of wounds on its back end there. That will most likely be from sparring matches or a bit of fighting between hippos. But otherwise, this one looks to be in great condition. Looks, I would say, maybe between 7 and 10 years of age. I'd say it's only just coming into its prime. Just in great condition. There was also, over the weekend, a brief sighting at Rosie's of a leopard. So more and more predators coming to the foreground, which is nice. Now let's go across to that. And it's also quite interesting to see a lot of these highlights are all at night. Obviously with the predators and hippos being nocturnal, but these are the things we miss. And so we're just trying to catch up, but just look at that beautiful view of this leopard. I'm not sure if this is the female of the mating pair that was around Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday last week. I don't know if anyone followed up and viewed on Rosie's, kept a close eye, but it seems to be by itself this time, but just a beautiful view. Such an incredible animal. You can see that spot pattern, that necklace we've spoken about a couple of times, talking about identifying different animals. On the leopard, it's quite easy to identify visually. You see it's got two lines of very dark spots on its otherwise white furred throat. Those would be worthwhile taking a photograph of, maybe drawing them. Just look, it's very characteristic spot pattern on the throat. And that's how one would tell one leopard from the other. Looks like there's a couple of bats flying around as well. Just beautiful in movement, long tail, really helpful for balance while climbing trees. Just slowly sneaking through. Beautiful view. There's another one, another clip I'd like to show you, also from Rosie, something different. The diversity is really nice, but this is a daddy longlegs. They're very widely spread. It's got its egg sac attached to it. And what's quite interesting about a daddy longlegs is that they predominantly feed on other spiders, including highly venomous spiders. Itself is not very venomous at all. A lot of the time people think that it's very venomous, but it's because people assume that because it eats other highly venomous spiders, that it must be more venomous than them. It actually just manages to catch them and spin them into a very loose web quite quickly and manages to consume them without being affected by their venom. But that's quite an interesting view, something different. Diversity is something I enjoy on these cameras. And then there's one more of the highlights, this time at Tembe. Beautiful view of this giraffe and elephants in the mud wallow in the background. So again, those of you that have been watching over the weekend, maybe you've seen some of these highlights, but it's always nice to recap, as I often miss them myself while sleeping. I see, Margaret, you saw the mating pair of leopards again. They're really interesting. Again, being behind the camera allows us to see some interesting behavior, things we don't often see even if we were there. And then you're asking the age of that leopard. Well, she's definitely adult. She looks to be relatively small, so I would say somewhere around 3 to 5 years of age, but probably closer to 3. So young. The leopard's prime as a leopardess will probably start around 3 to 4. And she looks to be in great condition. I'd put her at about 3 years of age. So that was a wonderful clip from Tembe. Looks like the live cameras have been a bit quiet this afternoon. We're back on live now. We've got some impalas and an inyala in the background there. But goodness me, the time flies. We've come to the end of the show today, folks. Thanks so much for all your questions. Great to catch up with you again. Tomorrow, I'll be discussing all the smaller things and the unusual things that we've seen on Africam on our On Point show. I hope Russell will be back with me, but it might just be me again. Either way, if you have the time, it will be great if you could join us tomorrow. I've got some interesting clips of some of the more unusual, the smaller things that we see on Africam. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day further. Some of you have come to the end of your day. I hope you have a great evening and keep watching the cams, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow.